All right, a really important thing to consider as you're just starting the process is what is the true cost of purchasing a home? There are some immediate costs that you really need to be aware of before you start the process, just so that you don't waste your time and so that you don't find out after a lot of work that you're not actually ready. So, one of the biggest things is the closing cost. And a closing cost is something that you pay at the closing table. You're pretty much going to need to come in with a cashier's check, so it means that you've got to have that money before we even start the process. But those things are going to be maybe an appraisal fee, administrative fees. Essentially, you're covering the fees that have gotten you to this point. So all of those extra weird, extraneous fees that other people have been taking care of this transaction up until now, and they need to be paid. There are a couple of things that we can do to get out of closing costs. It doesn't work in every situation, but there are things that we can do. The first thing is to actually increase our offer. So closing costs are usually between 2 and 5% of the total purchase price, and so it's really easy to kind of give you a range of what those are going to be. Ultimately, your lender is going to have an exact amount for you as soon as they possibly can so that you know how to prepare best. So you'll have that amount, and we write the offer higher, assuming that the home can still appraise for that amount, and that's a really important part of that. We can't just go in and write a high offer for everything and have the closing costs covered. So when we do write a high offer that does get appraised, essentially what we're asking the seller to do is pay those closing costs, but over a long term. So the other option that we have is speaking with your lender. They will cover those closing costs, but the really big thing here is that your interest rate is going to go up on your loan, and the loan amount is going to become more. So it's something to think about. Are you ready to pay interest on a couple of $1,000s for 30 years? So that's definitely something to consider, but it's something that we can get out of. And there are a couple other things that we can talk about if that's a great concern for you, ways to get out of that. The other really important thing is a down payment. And not every case do you need a down payment, and that's something that we'll talk about later when we talk about loans and types of loans. There are loans that are 0% down. They're few and far between, and most people don't end up with them unless you're a VA. And so it's something to know ahead of time that most likely you are going to need to be coming in prepared with either a 3 to 10 to 20% down payment. But it's not something to worry about greatly until you're in that pre-approval process and kind of getting some numbers from your lender. So if you have any questions about that, I know it's a little bit confusing, a little bit complicated. I just want to kind of dip your toes in and see, make sure that you just knew that there were some early costs that were going to come along with buying a home. Like I said, if you have any questions, please reach out.